vitality in some cases and can be venerally transmitted in man. In the words of Dr. C.E. Gordon Smith, it has possible potential as an infectious disease of man. It presumably is also of BW, biological warfare, interest. New diseases are continually appearing. Chikungunya and Oyingon fever, for example. In addition to these, there are possibilities of viruses and bacteria being genetically manipulated to produce new organisms.
Thank you so much for reading that. I wanted to just to get that read because there is so much evidence that biological warfare is happening and has happened and it continues to happen today with the suspected biological weapon of COVID-19. I definitely suspect that was a disease that was made with intentions to disrupt our society. I'm not upset with it. Our society was actually running pretty poorly, considering I was being oppressed every single day. I left my home. So yeah, I've exhausted my notes from this, so we can move to closing comments. So before
Sorry?
I've exhausted my notes, so I went through everything I wanted to do. Before we move to closing comments, Mary, do you have something to read?
Yes, of course.
Can you please get through it then? Yeah.
So, based on what you read, okay, I was gonna try and summarize what I thought what you read, but yeah, go ahead. I really liked and enjoyed the fact that it's even within this text, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing lays it out very clearly about the fact that we as Africans are constantly taking on this full pressure of the diseases come from us, the disassociation with monkeys. I'm really happy that she talked about it in this chapter because it's something that's been frustrating me for the longest time. I'm from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and when the Ebola had broke out there, I had family firsthand telling me that white people were coming to wells, and then when they left the wells, anybody who drank from those wells would be infected with Ebola. I understood it to be a man-made patent. Like I wish my mom was able to be here for this chapter because that's something she was there for the epidemic and the breakout, and she was like taking care of her health, so she didn't get it. But a lot of people that were getting it were poor people who didn't have access to health. Like they'll die within 24 hours to 2 days of contracting the disease, and if no forms of immunization or health was like administered, like proper health was administered, they would die. And for me, that's something that's there to kill and the fact that it could be treated, because it wasn't like it was untreatable. It could be treated with basic health methods of taking care of your health. That let me know it was there to just kill off who it possibly could. It was definitely biological warfare. And for me, you said something about this earlier, Ben. Something I think we've all talked about it, but it was about projection and the fact that I understand that the Europeans have a DNA. Some Europeans have just how they link it to Neanderthal. There's a genetic DNA that's called the rhesus monkey gene. And when in my previous role, where I was a validation officer, I had access to this information on my on the system files, and that's how I learned about it. I literally see RH gene, yes, no, next to a newborn baby that would come up. So then when I'd see that, I went and researched RH gene, and when I tell you, it's a monkey gene that is only present in and what I started doing my testing, my personal testing. If I could see the demographic, the race of the child, and then I would see was a gene present, and it was only mainly present in European children and Arabian children. That was what I came to understand, and that also let me understand that helped me alleviate this energy of we are seriously being projected onto, like this constant association with monkey. We're either eating it, we're sleeping with it, or somehow, and it's given us all these diseases: Ebola, cholera, AIDS, all of it, all monkey related. And the obsession with monkeys, now I understand, comes from the fact that you are obsessed with figuring out something in yourself, but because it's gross or unattractive, you've now associated it with us, with Black people wholeheartedly. I just want to read a little bit of information about rhesus monkey that I had researched in the time. The rhesus study is part of an ongoing. This is I'll send the link also for anybody who wants further information on this genetic rhesus gene. The rhesus study is part of an ongoing program to analyze primate genomes. Other primate genomes underway include the mammoth, the gibbon, and the gorilla. Research on the Byler Center at Washington University Genome Center completed the raw sequence for the orangutan and the mammoth genes early this year. The assembly of the Genome Sequence Center research plans to analyze this orangutan and mammoth gene and compare them with those of other primates over the summer. It goes on, but it's the fact that this is something that's present in European DNA right now, and it's being tested and it's under wraps. Like unless you know about it and research it, you won't have access to this information or even know that this is something that's present in their DNA. But yeah, every angle, there's not one Black person that's not known to be associated with monkey AIDS virus disease from us eating like bush animals or gorillas or being gorillas ourselves. And it's just the highest sense of projection. What else did I want to read from my notes? Just a little bit earlier on page 295, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing mentions, most disturbing and most nonsensical is the obsessive insistence on the part of the people who classify themselves as white that Black people in Africa caused the spread of AIDS virus throughout the world from their contact with the African green monkey, the vervet monkey. My effort, therefore, is to place the discussion of AIDS in what I consider to be its only proper and logical context. I'm attempting to neutralize much of the nonsense that has developed worldwide concerning this topic. In the past 5 years or so, AIDS is a deadly disease which, after its sudden appearance, has already killed thousands of people. The projection is that it will kill many, many thousands more, indeed many millions. I hope that by cutting through the nonsense surrounding the discussion of AIDS and taking a more logical approach to epidemic and pandemic disease, many lives through the world will be saved. And it can be with us understanding the true context of where it comes from, and like understanding that these things are funded as well. These labs have been funded. Do we have tax money in these areas? Are we funding our own genocide? How do we understand, get to the bottom of who is funding these labs to be creating all these different simplexes and viruses, particularly possibly in Germany, and then spreading it throughout, and then claiming the same old monkey is the reason for it in the jungle in Africa. But any thoughts and comments on that before I move on to my next point?
I think it's a really interesting projection for their obsession with monkeys. Perhaps that's could be because they believe they are descendants of that due to their evolution theory. But nonetheless, a projection and this African green monkey that she mentions. I've also like the propaganda is so real that I've heard of this African green monkey even from like shows like South Park. So it's really suspicious, and that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you so much for giving us that slew of information. Mary is very amazing and constructive. Um, Ben, did you have anything you wanted to share? Anything that you had noted down for the chapter?
No, I'm good.
So I wanted us to read the uh, the Black Oath. Um, so like there's a lot of stuff, not a lot of stuff, but there is the author's note. I'll go ahead and read that, and then there's also the definition that she gives us as a Black behavioral scientist. Can someone read that part, and then we can all take turns reading a Black Oath, and then a liberating Black people's prayer. So and this is like after the the recommended readings list. So the author's note from 2005. Um, go ahead and read this.
Where is it?
It's it doesn't. I think it's in the very back of the book. Mary, for you, it will be in the WhatsApp messages, Mary.
I see the definition, the functional definition, racism. That, not that.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons that we're gonna be reading. Yeah, but yeah, before that, the one page before that, there should be something else.
Oh, author's note. I can
Yeah,
read it.
I'll go for it.
14 years after the initial publication of this book, The ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Colors, it remains abundantly clear to this author that whereas the problem of the 20th century, as articulated by W.B. Du Bois in The Souls of Black Folk, was the problem of the color line, the relation of the darker to the lighter races of men, the remaining task, the challenge of the 21st century is solving once and for all time the still existing problem of the color line, which is the local, national, global system of racism, replacing the system of racism, white supremacy, with a local, national, global system of justice so there can be peace on planet Earth. Black intelligence, Black physical health and mental health, Black self respect, and the well being of the non white global majority is dependent upon accomplishing this most global objective. Black, all shades of Black people, the non white global majority should experience deep personal shame should we fail to accomplish this task. However, a problem that is not first sufficiently analyzed and succinctly defined is a problem that will not be solved. My following definition of racism, white supremacy, remains as the most succinct and comprehensive definition of this global problem. I will therefore continue to recommend its use until a more adequate statement, if indeed one does exist, should take its place.
Functional definition of racism: white supremacy equals racism equals white supremacy equals apartheid. As a Black behavioral scientist and a practicing psychiatrist, my own functional definition of racism, white supremacy is as follows. Racism, white supremacy is the local and global power system and dynamic structured and, maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously, determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity: economic, education, entertainment, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth. a planet upon which the vast and overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow by white-skinned people, and all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, MD, psychiatrist, Washington, D.C. And so there is this thing called the Black Oath. I believe we all should just read it, take turns reading it. So, Mary, could you read it first, and then Ben, and then myself, and Swaf, he's still there, and then just let's just all read
I
it.
don't believe I have the Black Oath.
It's in the WhatsApp as well.
Yeah, okay. Can I? I'll just read the entire the Black Oath because it's very short. Do you want to split this up, or are you saying we're gonna read it over and over again?
We're gonna read it over and over again.
All right, I'll read it first. A Black Oath, a pledge of allegiance for Black people. I pledge allegiance to my own Black self-respect and to the respect of all other Black and shades of Black people on planet Earth, all of whom are
Trey, it's
victims
no,
of the
sorry.
system of racism, white supremacy. And I pledge use of all my energy, intelligence, and creativity in all areas of of people activity to eliminate the global system of racism, white supremacy on planet Earth, and to replace it with justice, so that there can be peace. So help me God, Francis Welsing, MD.
A Black Oath, a pledge of allegiance for Black people. I pledge allegiance to my Black self respect, to the respect of all the Black people and shades of Black people on planet Earth, all of whom were victims of racism, white supremacy. And I pledge to use all of my life energy, intelligence, and creativity in all areas of people activity to eliminate the global system of racism, white supremacy on planet Earth and to replace it with justice so that there can be peace. So help me God.
A Black Oath, a pledge of allegiance for Black people. I pledge allegiance to my own Black self-respect and to the respect of all other Black and shades of Black people on earth, all of whom are victims of the system of racism, white supremacy. And I pledge to use all of my energy, intelligence, and creativity in all areas of people activity to eliminate the global system of racism, white supremacy on planet Earth, and to replace it with justice so that there can be peace. So help me God.
I don't have the notes, so I just wrote down as much as I could from what Ben just said just there. I wish I got the idea earlier as Trey was reading. That would have been great for me. But yeah, I pledge allegiance to my own Black self-respect. I picked that up, and I pledge allegiance to use my energy and my creativity towards the breaking down of white supremacy and replacing it with a system of justice. So help me God.
Great, great, great. And let's do the same thing for a liberating Black people's prayer.
I have that one.
So do you want to start that one off? Start us off?
Yes, thank you. A liberating prayer, a liberating Black people's prayer for justice and peace, to say and envision when in prayer. Thou who art blacker than a trillion midnights, whose eyes shine brighter than a billion suns, thou whose hair doth coil tighter than a million springs, radiating all energy throughout the universe, we beseech thee, one and only one, to give us total strength to carry out thy will for the universe, to establish justice on planet Earth and to live in peace. Ashe, amen. And so it is.
A liberating Black people's prayer to say and envision when in prayer. Thou who art blacker than a trillion midnights, whose eyes shine brighter than a million suns. Thou whose hair doth coil tighter than a million springs, radiating all energy throughout the universe. We beseech thee, one and only one, to give us total strength to carry out thy will for the universe, to establish justice on planet Earth, and to live in peace.
A liberating Black people's prayer for justice and peace, to say and envision when in prayer. Thou who art blacker than a trillion midnights, whose eyes shine brighter than a billion suns, thou whose hair doth coil tighter than a million springs, radiating all energy throughout the universe. We beseech thee, one and only one, to give us total strength to carry out thy will for the universe, to establish justice on planet Earth and live in peace.
A literary Black people's prayer for justice and peace, to say and envision when in prayer. Thou, when art blacker than a trillion midnights, whose eyes shine brighter than a billion suns, thou whose hair doth coil tighter than a million springs, radiating all energy throughout the universe. We beseech one and only one to give us total strength to carry out thy will for the universe, to establish peace on planet Earth, to establish justice on planet Earth and live in peace.
And thank you guys all. Let's go ahead and conclude. So I just want to I have a conclusion question. How has reading the ISIS papers shape your reality? How has it shaped your perception of reality and your emotional response and thought and speech patterns? And how has it affected your existence? That's what I'm trying to say. And I'll go by saying it's made me a lot more, comfortable in speaking my thoughts on the racism, white supremacy, because everything in the book is pretty much, I have experiences with it, or I have bared witness to such things. So I consider this to be like my personal holy text, my Bible. To me, this is more important than any Christian Bible, more important than any Quran or any type of religious text, because it's not full of lies like those things. It's not really made to control you and oppress you. It's made to free you and wake you up to the truth. And if you're not able to adjust to this book, it means that you're either fodder, you're just war food, or you're just a victim, and you will remain a victim, and you will die a victim, and you will live a very comfortable life, if that makes any sense in this world of insanity. So I really enjoyed the book. I love being able. It has enhanced my decoding skills. It has allowed me to decode things in a more effective manner. It has allowed me to be more vigilant in an effective manner. And it's one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life, hands down. Hands down.
Yeah, this was a life changing book. Before I started reading this book, I was a very ignorant slave. I had now, after finishing this book, I am a very aware warrior attempting to counter this real very serious problem, and this is one of the most important books on planet Earth right now, next to the Code book. And yeah, like the late Dr.Frances Cress Welsing, like what Trey said, I also see this as a holy text. Um, I, I wish every Black person had what Dr.Frances Cress Welsing had, which was the will to liberate and uplift and free. No, show Black people how to free themselves. Because we have to do it ourselves. We're not going to be the yellow, brown, or red man to help us or save us. It's going to be the Blacks. Black self-respect and group self-respect. So very life-changing book. The chapter 14, just all chapters 1 through 25 very necessary for every black person, every person who is interested in solving this problem to read.
100% correct. That self-respect. Honestly, reading Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Paper, reading all these essays, I believe for me has been a rite of passage. I needed this. I've highly needed this. I needed this for the things that I continue to want to talk about. And I need this to arm myself. It's just as important as the code book. It's just as important as any self-help book that works on, like, it's just as important as reading a health book. It's a health this has been health for my mind. Like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing mentioned our brains as brain computers. That alone has really reconfigured the way that I process information, the way that I choose to process that I'm now choosing how to filter to process information. Um, her being Dr. Frances Wilson being a psychiatrist, focused and dedicated. Just hearing her dedication lets me know that just like you said, this is a holy text. Trey said it, Swai, you said it. It's a holy text. It's her intentions for me is as intensive as God's intentions for the reasons that we have holy books, if that's the case, or as a moral guidance or a biblical representation of the records of the sun, like the things that's happened in the past. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing has been specifically on the things that affect our mental, spiritual, and physical being. Wholeheartedly, that's been her concern and care. She talks about white people, she talks about the Holocaust, she talks about all kinds, but it all stems back to the same road of healing our minds. And with that intention, this is our Bible, because this is what we need to emancipate, number one, foremost, more than anything. So I can't even express how grateful I am for this. My expressions of how grateful I am for this is going to be prevalent in my work. It's going to be prevalent in my career. It's going to be prevalent in how I continue to, like, how I operate, and now how I the kind of conversations I choose to have. Like the last time we had somebody here and they had a lot of points said, but I believe it was like a group cohesiveness of understanding, but based on the text, that where they were going wrong, and everybody kind of knew where that was from, and you can only be armed like that if you read. And I have to say I'm extremely grateful for being brought forward to in this group, countering racism, white supremacy, the book club, to has held me accountable, kept me on my toes of reading, because that's one thing I love, information, and I would watch YouTube videos, and I have a whole load of books, but that focus, that sitting down and completing a book, like unless it was for like my essays, I even then I wouldn't have completed, I wouldn't have done it. But yeah, I'm truly grateful for the accountability and the journey.
Wait, Mary, I just want to say one thing to what you said. Well, it brings to mind that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is passed, and she's still healing and helping Black people from beyond the grave, which is a tremendous display of Black self-respect and Black warriorship.
Blessings.
Yes. So, Ben.
Yeah, I agree and corroborate everything each of you said. What you got from it, you made me realize that I also experienced the same thing. I don't know if any of you ever remember as a child, like maybe 6 or 7 years old, or even, somewhere in that neighborhood, being so angry and not knowing what to say or do, that all you could do is cry. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I'm sure you have.
I have.
Um,
Yep.
just so, I've been experiencing this rage most of my life and not really in touch with it, not really being to identify what to do with it, where it came from, where, and throughout this whole book, I have been on the verge, off and on, up and down, especially today, on the verge of tears. some from rage and just and pain, the thought of what has actually happened to us, not knowing what happened to us, and coming out of uh, a fog and coming into the light, coming out of the blur and coming into clarity, which is, that you invaluable. You cannot put a price on what this book, and I've read it. I read this book in college, and it impacted me. I've owned this book for years, for 30 years, and didn't apply. At that age, just I got it, but not to the intense extent that I got it now. And so now I'm more comfortable. What I got from the ultimate, what I got more from it was self-love, more self-love. Stop directing sometimes I'll direct the pain and the anger towards myself instead of inward, and harm myself, maybe drink too much or smoke too much or have a relationship that's not good for me but good to me and is going to eventually hurt me. And so it's taking me away from self-harm to self-love. And what I'm enjoying maybe more than anything else is speaking in front of white people and making them feel extremely uncomfortable with things that and the beauty of it is you can say these things without being angry, offensive, deliberately offensive and aggressive. You're just stating the truth, and they're so unused to it. They're still not used to hearing the truth that they're made uncomfortable. And my goal, is to get white people to start talking about white supremacy, get white people to start talking about race relations. And there's still one, thing I'm struggling with, because there are some white folks that I believe, like my mother's mother and other people that actually have that don't have that monkey DNA, that actually have human DNA. And I gotta tell you, I'm struggling with this one. There's two white ladies that I know that quite possibly are the sweetest, nicest, most compassionate, loving people that I know. And they are really adamant about anti-racism. And they've expressed to me, I even heard a white dude in one of my meetings say, I go to 12-step meetings, one of my groups, and he said two things. He said, it is impossible for white people to be happy because they're either consciously or subconsciously enjoying the privilege of murder and rape and theft. And they're not, and they're experiencing these feelings of entitlement that they're not entitled to. And he also said, and this is a white dude, right? And he said, until white people reconcile what they've done to the indigenous peoples of the world, you can never recover. We're talking about recover from, the disease of addiction. And the disease of addiction is the disease of one's inability to love oneself. It has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. And he was saying that until you reconcile what you've done to the indigenous peoples of this country and the Africans and of the world, you cannot be free of guilt and shame. And so I'm just, after reading this book and hearing this and connecting the dots, because I have guilt and shame too. I think all of us have been conditioned to experience internal guilt and shame. I don't have it now. I'm waking up like, I don't feel that shit I used to feel. You know? uh, and I'm just happier. I'm happier. You know what I mean? I'm happier
The truth shall set you free.
and free. I was just gonna say that, and liberated. I feel a sense of liberation after going through that, and a challenge. That was one of her solutions, to take responsibility and take the challenge and critically analyze, challenge, and there was one other one, you know, to take these words to these young people in the hood that is just like speaking Chinese to them. And now I have an arsenal. I have really solid confidence and information, to go and lay down some rules. And then the last thing I just want to close with is that I'm a little disappointed that, having read this and not obviously not deciphering it like we did, and dissecting it like we did, how is it that the rest of our community did not get those rules? All we have to do is look. I took this to my DV class. Rule number 1: no name calling, because the name calling is I mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting. The name calling is the first step towards killing yourself, and we don't realize it. When I even say it to myself sometimes. Nigga, you better get your ass up. Nigga, you better get your ass out of here. Nigga, you better get your shit together. I'm probably gonna say nigga 20 times before I go to bed tonight. And, it's almost like quitting smoking. It's like that's the deepest symbol or indicator of that conditioning. And I'm so excited about starting this campaign, that nobody seems to be concerned about around here. That's what this book has done for me, man. And more. So yeah, I'll be calling on you to come. You come up. You guys will come on up here and work with these kids, man. Because we got to catch them young. And maybe the older kids will hear something that from the younger kids, because from what I understand, what's behind these murders. Now these are the men murdering men, the young men murdering men. I've heard it from more than one person that they're getting killed just for looking good, just for dressing nice and having a nice car. Other boys are murdering other boys from jealousy. I mean, I can't even fathom that, but that's what I'm hearing.
Oh, that's
It's the
nothing new
same
under the
thing over
sun,
here in the UK.
I believe that's what SARS was about. The SARS were terrorizing Black people for being so-called seen as enjoying themselves. So, and I say that because until the system of racism is ended and replaced with justice, we must understand that these things will continuously happen, and until the root is uprooted and replaced with a system of justice, we should expect many more deaths to continue. And yeah, understand that one rule that everyone is subconsciously and consciously trained to adhere to, which is if you're Black, get back. If you're brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're white, you're all right. So this is trained in everyone's psyche, and Dr.Frances Cress Welsing has done a wonderful job to explain this to us. So when you're out and about, understand where this is a battleground. This is not America. It's not the US of A. This is a war zone if you're a Black person, and you need to behave as such.
Just one quick
Yeah.
last thing that this really, really helped me with the previous chapter. the women is that, and subsequent chapters prior to that, really has lifted some guilt from me for not having been married. I have a daughter, but I've never been married, and I haven't had functional relationships, and I've always beat myself up for that, you know, and not only beat myself up and have been blamed for that all my life. And so I'm almost to tears right now to find out that, it's really not my fault. I have tried, I've really tried, but I wasn't settling for no bullshit. It's something intrinsic, something inside of me just would not allow me to go along with the kind of relationships and the kind of bullshit that has been. I couldn't pinpoint it exactly, but it's just, no, this isn't right. This system, this structure, this relationship structure that they have set up is unnatural, and it's not. And I see the marriages and I see the relationships. I can't find, and she mentions it in her writing. Show me 5 relationships that you would emulate. I think it was in this book that you mentioned that. I want to see 5. Can you name 5 black couples that you can feel comfortable emulating? And there isn't. It's true. I might know 1 or maybe 2, and even those are faulty. They're faulty. My mother and father were married over 50 years. Faulty, just a totally dysfunctional relationship. And I'm reaping all of the damage from it. My brother's been married 40 years. Oh man, I wouldn't want anything remotely close to that.
Yeah, but I mean, just be understand that, like, as far as I'm concerned, and what has become evident to me, if the relationship is not centered on countering racism, if my partner and myself aren't aware that we're going to be like being terrorized from all fronts, then the relationship already is destined for limited success, I would say. So, now that you understand the system, you can find you a warrior queen, and you guys could, help further to solve this problem. You know,
I
if
was
you would like to pursue that.
That's so liberating for me. I feel knowing that makes me feel like I actually dodged a bullet, or like,
Yeah.
yeah.
big time. I totally agree. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to like add on to what you just said there, Ben. I spoke to my cousin earlier this morning, and she travels a lot. She's always back and forth, and she was talking about not lowering her standard, and like she's had like long-term relationships which was played around with in the past, but she had to like put on this strong front, like to be clear on her standards. But she said that she almost like backed down because she missed the companionship. She missed having someone else to support, to have a different type of relationship for then versus the relationship she has with her family, where she's like the primary caregiver or the most intelligent one. So she just wanted like an even relationship with somebody else, where she doesn't have to. She has a different relationship that it's not where she doesn't have to give all her energy, and it's like just supportive. And she was just saying how tired she was. She has a date coming up with one of her with somebody who basically had told her, okay, like I understand what you're saying now. I see what you're doing. I want to support you, and let's see where this goes. Because she said that my worth as a woman. I shouldn't have to lower my standards in order to be happy. We should be able to work together, as I'll be willing to work. And I told her that, as I was like, because she was like, I'm really, I don't want to sound like that woman, but I really need someone. And I was like, it's not that you need somebody, it's not that you want somebody, you deserve somebody. So these things feel like a need and a want, but it's something you deserve naturally anyway. And in understanding that you deserve it and staying in that energy and holding on to your standards, and of course you have to negotiate, but it's always gonna feel fair. It's not gonna feel like you are tarnishing who you were gonna be. It's not gonna feel like you start making choices that suppress your best interest for your partner. There's always going to be you negotiate the silly stuff that doesn't affect your life, career, and better. But I just want to pass that on to you. It's not that you need it or want it; you deserve it, and everything is in its right timing and preparation. You based on the mindset that you have, you want revolution as well. As you continue to move closer to your revolution, the alignment will come. Doesn't matter how long it takes. You're definitely going to be in the earth for a full um 80 100 years plus, so you have so much time to experience that love relationship. There's no time limit to it. Keep up your health, and it'll be like what aid, like just take care of your health and trust in the rest of the process.
Thank you for that. I really needed to hear that.
I actually had two more things that I wanted to read from this chapter, but it's more so just like comments that I made over particular parts that I had read. Dr.Frances Cress Welsing quotes from the book The Psychopathic God, written by Robert J. L. Another way of praising, in my opinion, white supremacist leaders over time. Like, she mentions how Adolf Hitler is the crystallization of like white supremacy, and that's why in like every movie they pay homage to him in some way, even if it's a movie about the Holocaust, or even if it's a movie that talks about what he did as bad. The way that they film him, the way that they give reverence, it suggests honor, glory, and respect. That's all I've seen from. So that makes sense when she mentions him as somebody who's been crystallized under white supremacy for his efforts of what he done. And I want to read this extract, and I'm going to make a comparison, and I want to hear everyone else's opinion on this as well. Toward the end of the February 1942, just after the Wannsee Conference, which organized the final solution to the Jewish problem, Hitler listed himself amongst the great benefactors of mankind who had isolated dangerous disease germs. The discovery of the Jewish virus is one of the greatest revolution that has taken place. The fight we are carrying on of the same nature as that waged by Pasteur and Koch during the last century. How many diseases have origin in the Jewish virus? We shall retain our health when we eliminate the Jew. This text, reading this passage, literally reminded me of Bill Gates in one of his conference talking about we are making great efforts to reduce the population and we have achieved with great success, as if he's not talking about humans' lives that he's been sterilizing and murdering with the medication, in the aid of medication, but handing out death vaccines to people in West Africa, all over Africa. But I have testimonies of the ones in Africa, going to Sierra Leone, people lining up in the queue, especially children, for free medication, free vaccine. They're not knowing what it's for, lining up, and the next day passing away and dying. And then he's on his private jet in another island the next day, so not accountable for it. But in his mind, when he's talking on this conference stage, they're talking about they've done their job, they're succeeding. It's literally the same thing. The blatantness of calling other people a problem, going about exterminating it and being funded for it, and having world stage presence and being able to talk about it as if they're doing something good. That Bill Gates is the new version of the crystallized white supremacist, and it hurts my heart. And if there's any negative energy that needs to be sent by like all black people, like rather than hating, having pain towards ourselves, this is where we need to direct our energy. The second that we get mad at anybody black, let's just shoot that energy in that direction, because I don't have access to Bill Gates, bloody bastard, for like the shit that he's done, especially in my country, Sierra Leone. But I can direct negative energy his way until that day. Yeah. So I just wanted to get people's opinions on Bill Gates's mission currently now of aiding in eugenics by reducing the population, and do we see the similarities in him and Adolf Hitler, especially with that statement from the conference?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of videos of Bill Gates talking about the vaccines and whatnot. I don't trust anything Bill Gates does or says. I think Bill Gates is a agent of white supremacy, and I think all he does is spread death to all the countries that he goes to. So whatever Bill Gates does and whatever he recommends, I would say do the opposite. He's trying to kill you. Yeah. Bill Gates is a mass murderer.
Wow, I guess I better do some more homework. I hadn't got there with him just yet. And concerning this vaccine.
Yeah, well, Ben, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I remember I was watching that Bill Gates. He's talking on TED Talks. I remember being so confused because I didn't know why he was like trying to curb the population. I don't know why he was trying so hard to like stop population growth. But now that I understand racism, what it is and how it works, just a little bit better than I did before, I'm able to understand that yes, Bill Gates is a white supremacist. Definitely like a can be described as a war criminal, like committing crimes against humanity. But until the global Black collective is able to see this frequency field that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has picked up on so well, and so has Neely Fuller and Dr. Marambi and so many other scholars. It's just so yeah. That's my that's it.
Yeah, the last thing that I want to say is not particularly part of the text, but it's one of my concluding thoughts that I got from the text. But biological warfare is highly a suppression tool, and it's done in these countries, these underdeveloped countries, more so than ever. And like this Ebola scare, I feel like it was there for restriction basis. Like Ebola was a thing until it wasn't a thing. It was on news is like consistently like Ebola, 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 and then everything dead, but nothing, no Ebola. It doesn't. We don't care anymore. Like what happened? We didn't get information on the reduced rates. We didn't get information on why Ebola is not a thing, and it's just disappeared because it was no longer part of the agenda. The next phase needed to be put in. So then we focused on China in all realms. So in all realms of aspects, and then now they've received the blame of COVID, and now it's COVID, 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 and then the new distraction will come in place. Hopefully, we'll be better armed and prepared for it. But what I wanted to mention about biological warfare is there to control us on so many levels. And just taking the Sierra Leone as an example, when Ebola had hit it at that time, and before that was cholera was like a really big problem. And this could be as bad as if it's in the water, and there's people with poor people with no access to to clean water, or wells are contaminated, or the street roads are not complete done are not the filtering systems are not being repaired. It will create a backlog of sewage that you could just go past, like how you'd catch pneumonia, you go past on the streets and get an infection that you don't have necessarily the money or the access to or the knowledge to, or of how to heal yourself, because you're in a colonized country. Like my mother said, their mind is set on going to America or coming to England rather than nurturing their surroundings. So just focused on getting out. And I understand biological warfare to be a way of stopping people from reaching, as well as genocide, as a way of stopping people from reaching self-actualization. If people are focused on survival and not meeting those needs, that you don't have time to think about if you want to be a doctor or a nurse, or further your career in that sense. Maybe you would think about being a doctor or a nurse to heal yourself, but you're never going to get from A to B or think past it if you're constantly thinking about where your next medication is coming from, to the point that a white foreign group can come in and put a sign saying free vaccinations here, and you will line up because it's like, oh, they're white, they must be here to help us. Like it's if we remove that element of survival and almost that self-actualization, nobody will be able to even walk into your country without paying a certain amount of fees that benefits the whole country before it benefits their travels to benefit them. That's the aim.
That was,
Yeah,
man, that was profound.
that's
I
my
gotta go,
conclusion.
you guys. I gotta go. It's 5 o'clock. It's almost 5 o'clock.
That's honestly,
It's almost 1 a.m. here.
Oh wow.
yeah, so
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
that's a great way to conclude. Like I said, Ben has to go. We've concluded. It's been a great meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
You gotta catch the story.
Peace out, Ben.
Peace, blessings, love you all, and keep me in the loop for the next book we're gonna be starting, right? And then keep me in the loop for all the other stuff too. I don't show up, but I still try to when you do.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's been an amazing journey with you on this book. Thank you so much
Appreciate
for
you.
your articulations, your wisdom, your experiences.
Pleasure's
Yeah.
all mine. Pleasure's all mine. Okay, bye.
Bye. And the Tration and Swashan, thank you too for your articulations, your persistence, your keeping on code, using the right languages, and allowing me to take that into my to my vocabulary as well. So I'm further armed. Like even when we are reading and we can like get into like long stories or like tap in more to experience rather than academic. I love the way that the way you answer questions. I'll talk about you, Swafit, right now. The way that you answer questions, in particular, of being on code or referring it back to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, you really taught me how to analyze in a way that I hadn't done before. So I appreciate that about you, like so much. And Tration, you being a Black male as well, the things that you have encountered, being able to show that, to being able to articulate yourself in the way that you do, the way that you and Swab both articulate yourself. If there's any Black men that I could learn from, I'm really grateful that I could learn from you two's experience because of that level of articulation and ability to you still feel the emotion, but separate yourself enough to give it out as education for other Black people. Yeah, I couldn't be in a group of better minds. So thank you.
Thank you.